before you hear what I said to them that night. Stop trying to hide from me. I have never loved the version of you that pretends to have everything together. I know the thoughts that keep you awake when everyone else is sleeping. I know the conversations you've replayed 1,000 times in your head. I know the disappointment you buried beneath. I'm fine. I know the prayer you stopped praying because silence hurt too much. I know the fear you haven't told anyone about. I know the shame you believe disqualifies you from being close to me. And yet, I have not changed my mind about you. You think your failures surprise me. They don't. You think I discovered your weakness and stepped back. I didn't. I knew Peter would deny me before Peter knew he was capable of it. I knew Thomas would doubt before Thomas asked his questions. I knew the others would run before fear reached their hearts. And still, I washed their feet. I broke bread with them. I called them my own. So listen carefully. Do not hear these words as a stranger overhearing an ancient conversation. Hear them as someone I have invited to my table. Because before the cross, before the nails, before the world thought darkness had won, I looked into frightened eyes and spoke words that generations would cling to when their own hearts began to tremble. And now, I want you to hear them too. Because what I said to them, I want you to remember tonight. You have spent enough nights trying to carry tomorrow before it arrives. Enough hours imagining the worst. Enough energy convincing yourself that if you worry hard enough, you can somehow protect the people you love. But tell me, has fear ever given you peace? Has anxiety ever added a single moment of life to your soul? That night, my disciples were afraid. Everything familiar was slipping through their fingers. Questions filled the room. What happens next? What if we lose him? What if everything falls apart? And before they could drown in those fears, I said this: do not let your hearts be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. I did not say this because trouble would never come. I said it because trouble would never sit on the throne. I did not promise that you would understand everything. I promised that you would never face anything without me. The storm may still rage around you. The diagnosis may still exist. The grief may still ache. The uncertainty may still remain. But look at me, not at the waves, not at the headlines, not at the voice of fear rehearsing disaster in your mind. Look at me, because the same hands that formed the stars are holding your future. And what I said next is why you never have to fear being abandoned again. You have called it loss. You have called it delay. You have called it the end. But that night, when my disciples believed they were about to lose everything, I wanted them to understand something they could not yet see. Leaving them was not abandoning them. I said, in my Father's house are many rooms. I am going there to prepare a place for you. Think about what that means. Before the cross, before the resurrection, before they understood any of it, I was already thinking about their future. I was already making room for them. Do you know why fear exhausts you? Because fear convinces you that you have been forgotten, that nobody is preparing the way, that you're facing an uncertain future with uncertain love. But listen to me. You are not an interruption to my plans. You are part of them. I have never looked at your life and wondered what to do with you. I have never regretted calling you. I have never said, I didn't expect them to struggle this much. Before you cried those tears, I knew them. Before you faced this season, I saw it. Before you asked the question, I had already gone ahead of you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, so that where I am, you may be also. The world tells you that home is a place. I tell you that home is a person, and because I live, you will never truly be homeless again. But Thomas asked the question many of you are afraid to ask out loud. What if I don't know the way? Some of you have spent years trying to figure everything out before taking the next step. You want certainty. You want guarantees. You want the entire map before you move. So did Thomas. He looked at me and said, Lord, we don't know where you are going. So how can we know the way? I love that question, because Thomas said what everyone else was thinking. He wasn't pretending. He wasn't performing faith. He brought me his confusion, and I answered him with words that have carried generations through their darkest nights. I am the way and the truth and the life. I did not say, I will give you directions. I did not say, find your own path and hope it leads somewhere good. I said, I am, because when you don't know what tomorrow holds, you can still know who walks with you into tomorrow. When grief clouds your vision, I remain the truth. When the road ahead disappears into uncertainty, I remain the way. When disappointment whispers that everything is dying, I remain the life. You don't have to understand everything to trust me. You don't have to eliminate every doubt before drawing near. Thomas brought me his questions. I gave him my presence. So bring me yours. The question keeping you awake. The prayer you don't know how to finish. The fear you cannot explain. Bring it all. Because the next thing I said changed the meaning of loneliness forever. I will not leave you as orphans. And when you understand what I meant by that, you will realize you have never been as alone as you thought. There are moments when loneliness feels louder than any crowd. You answer messages. You go to work. You sit at dinner tables. People assume you're doing fine. But deep inside, there is a question you don't even know how to put into words. Is anyone really with me in this? That night, my disciples were about to experience the kind of loneliness they never imagined. The footsteps they had followed for 3 years would soon disappear from familiar roads. The voice that calmed their fears would no longer echo through the streets of Galilee. The hands that broke bread with them would soon bear scars. Everything they had leaned on seemed to be slipping away. And before despair could take root, I said these words: I will not leave you as orphans. I will come to you. Not, I might. Not, if you're strong enough. Not, if your faith never wavers. I will. Do you understand what I was telling them? You may feel abandoned, but you are not abandoned. You may feel forgotten, but you are not forgotten. You may not always feel my presence, but my presence is not measured by your emotions. The child asleep in the back seat of a car doesn't have to keep checking if the father is driving. The father doesn't disappear simply because the child closes their eyes. And there will be seasons when you cannot sense me. When prayers feel like they hit the ceiling, when worship feels empty, when silence becomes unbearable. But even then, I have not left. Even then, I am near. Because my commitment to you has never depended on the strength of your feelings. It depends on the faithfulness of my promise. And my promises do not fail. But I knew something else. You wouldn't just need comfort. You would need help. Some of you have been trying to live this life as if everything depends on you. Trying harder. Holding tighter, pretending you're stronger than you really are, smiling while quietly unraveling inside. But I never asked my disciples to carry the weight of their future by themselves. I told them, I will ask the Father, and He will give you another advocate to help you and be with you forever, the Spirit of truth. Forever. Think about that word. People leave. Seasons change. Dreams disappoint. Bodies grow tired. But the Spirit of God does not pack His bags and walk away when life becomes complicated. He teaches. He reminds. He strengthens. He convicts. He comforts. He whispers truth when fear is shouting lies. And perhaps the reason you've become so exhausted is because you've been trying to win battles I never intended you to fight alone. You weren't designed to carry your marriage alone. You weren't designed to raise your children alone. You weren't designed to navigate grief alone. You weren't designed to overcome temptation alone. You weren't designed to survive this season through willpower alone. Heaven knew you would need help. So heaven sent help. The Spirit within you is not evidence that you've become perfect. He is evidence that you have not been abandoned. So take a breath. Release the pressure to save yourself. You are not carrying your life by yourself. And then I revealed something so intimate that even now, many believers struggle to believe it. I didn't call you servants. I called you friends. Listen to me carefully. Many of you have spent your entire lives trying to earn what I have already decided to give. You obey because you're afraid. You serve because you're afraid. You pray because you're afraid. Afraid that if you fail one more time, I will finally become disappointed enough to walk away. So you live as employees in a relationship that was never meant to be transactional. You wake up trying to deserve my love. You go to sleep wondering if you've lost it. But that night, I changed the language of belonging. I looked at men who would soon abandon me, and I said, I no longer call you servants. Instead, I have called you friends. Friends, not because they had earned it, not because they had proven themselves faithful enough, not because they finally understood everything. Peter would still deny me. Thomas would still doubt me. The others would still run. And yet I spoke friendship over them before their failures had even happened. Do you understand what this means? Your worst moment does not shock me. Your struggle does not cancel my invitation. The version of you that cries in secret, the version of you that questions, the version of you that is tired of trying to hold everything together, that is the person I am speaking to. You keep waiting to become someone else before coming close to me. But I have always called imperfect people into intimate relationship. You are not merely tolerated. You are wanted. You are not standing outside the door hoping to be accepted. You have been invited to the table. And friendship with me isn't based on how tightly you hold on to me. It's based on how faithfully I hold on to you. But there was one more thing my disciples needed to understand. Because friendship with me was never meant to end with comfort. It was meant to transform the way they lived. I knew what fear would tempt them to do. Run, hide, protect themselves, disconnect. And if you're honest, you felt that temptation too. When life hurts, you withdraw. When prayers seem unanswered, you become distant. When disappointment piles up, you quietly drift. Not because you stopped loving me, but because pain convinced you that distance was safer than closeness. So I gave them an image they would never forget. I am the vine, you are the branches. A branch doesn't fight to stay alive by pretending it doesn't need the vine. It lives by remaining, staying, abiding, receiving. You have been taught that the Christian life is mostly about striving, trying harder, doing more, being better. But fruit does not grow through panic. Fruit grows through connection. A branch doesn't wake up every morning asking, "How do I manufacture grapes today?" It simply remains attached to the source of life. And maybe that's your invitation today. Not to perform, not to impress me, not to exhaust yourself trying to become worthy, but to remain. When you don't understand, remain. When you are disappointed, remain. When you're afraid, remain. When you fail, remain. Because my love for you was never designed to be visited occasionally. It was designed to become the place where your soul learns to live. And if you stay long enough in that love, you'll discover something fear can never understand. The world can take many things from you, but it cannot take the one who has made his home within you. And that's why, even in your darkest season, you still have a reason to hope. There will be moments when you begin to wonder if following me is worth it. Moments when doing the right thing costs you something. Moments when people misunderstand your convictions, mock your faith, or walk away because you refuse to become someone you're not. I never hid that reality from my disciples. I didn't sell them an easy life. I didn't promise a path without tears. I told them, if the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first. In other words, don't measure my presence by the absence of difficulty. Some of you have mistaken hardship as evidence that I have left you. You thought, if God were truly with me, this marriage wouldn't be this hard. If God loved me, I wouldn't be fighting this battle. If I had more faith, I wouldn't feel this exhausted. But look at my life. I was loved by the Father and still misunderstood. I healed people and was rejected. I spoke truth and was hated without reason. Pain is not proof of my absence. Sometimes it is simply proof that you are walking a road that leads home. So when you feel outnumbered, when your faith feels costly, when obedience feels lonely, remember this. You are not walking a path I know nothing about. I walked it first. I know what betrayal feels like. I know what rejection feels like. I know what grief feels like. I know what it means to weep. And because I know, you never have to suffer as someone who is unseen. The world may not understand you, but heaven does. And the story you're living now is not the final chapter. Because before I left that room, I wanted my friends to know how their story would ultimately end. Not in fear, not in sorrow, but in joy. So listen to me one last time. If fear has been speaking louder than hope, if disappointment has convinced you that you've been forgotten, if you've been carrying burdens that have bent your shoulders and stolen your sleep, hear my words again. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. The world offers temporary escape. I offer enduring presence. The world says, everything must change before you can have peace. I say, you can have peace because I have not changed. The storm may not stop tonight. The diagnosis may not disappear tomorrow. The answer you've been praying for may still take time, but you do not face any of it alone. I have prepared a place for you. I am the way when you cannot see the road ahead. I have not left you as an orphan. I have called you my friend. I am the vine that will sustain you when your strength runs out. So let your heart rest. You are more known than you realize, more loved than you dare believe, and more held than you can presently understand. If these words reached you today, tell me in the comments. Which promise of Jesus do you need to hold on to in this season of your life? And if this message brought peace to your heart, subscribe and share it with someone whose soul is tired. Because somewhere tonight, another frightened heart needs to hear what I said before I left. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. Amen.